Hello, the well community. My name is Yaka and I am here in London, UK, and this is officially our first ever Instagram Live. Welcome. It's gonna be a conversation with Valentina Leuchenko. But first, I just wanted to say welcome to the page, especially if you're someone new or if you're not a member yet, just to say a couple brief words about the WELL, the Global Vocal Improvisation Network. It's really an online gathering place first for anyone interested in vocal improvisation. The membership is free. You can go to thewellvocal.com. You can join by filling in a simple form, and then you're going to be able to access our global map, our global event listing, resources, and much, much more. So head over there. Equally so, you can see our past social media tech takeovers on our Instagram page if you want to see who is a part of the community and what they're doing on all kinds of different methods, different countries, different continents. There's lots and lots of great content there. And of course, if you would like to propose a collaboration, if you have an idea, please get in touch here or at info@thewellvocal.com. So this is the first ever In Conversation Live. We hope that it will become a series. It's going to be a conversation between myself and Valentina Leuchenko, who is going to be joining in from Kyiv, Ukraine. And let's see. The live is going to take maximum 1 hour, and we're going to be chatting about our recent trip to Ukraine and much more. Hello.
Hello.
So nice to see you. I was just explaining things about the WELL, inviting people to the website, of course. And first of all, how are you doing? Where are you? How are things?
I'm in Kiev. Things are great. We have electricity, as you see, Wi-Fi and everything. So actually, it's good. The last few weeks were super calm here, and yes, it's a beautiful autumn here now. Super sunny, still warm, and electricity and like
That's brilliant. It's good to start on a positive note. So, okay, so for anyone that doesn't know, and many people won't know, and thank you for everyone that's joining. I was visiting Valentina in Ukraine at the beginning of the summer. We had 2 very beautiful weeks. So this is also gonna seep into this conversation. We can talk a little bit about the experience. But of course, we're also here because of a fundraiser. Yeah, so shall we go straight in and talk about that first?
yes, let's do that.
Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know, we have a current open fundraiser. You can go to the bio on the Wells page and check it out. We are supporting frontline music teachers from Ukraine to attend the second ever 4K Music Forum, which is happening in October. And we want to support 10 of them. We have raised 75% of the 2 grants that we want to reach. So we're almost there. So this is our final push up until the 1st of October, and we can talk about it here and why that is important. So Valentina, first of all, tell us a little bit about the 4K Music Forum that you founded with your friend, Natalka Shipelenko.
Wow, this session is amazing. Yes, me and my friend Natalka Shipelenko, who is amazing, one of the best actually vocal teachers in Ukraine. We founded the forum where we gather people who are music teachers, music educators from different parts of Ukraine, and we are super happy to introduce different kind of practices which are not still very common, such as vocal improvisation, such as circle singing, body percussion, and other things that are super important and like vital to people to practice and to know, but still are not that common here in Ukraine. So we are really trying to implement this like for here, people often think it's kind of magic, but it's all super practical and great things that we all experience with you. And so we are really like working hard. We did first one in April, and it's actually been attended by almost 80 people. So we hope to repeat this result and probably do better. And we will be having another teacher from not from Ukraine. It's Charles Vassel, who is amazing body percussion teacher, one of the best I ever met. So we are super lucky that he agreed also to come and visit us here in Ukraine and to work with other teachers. So we understand that for many of them who are still stays in this front line in the villages and small cities, even in big cities like Kharkiv, they have like really difficult situation there. So for them, it's super vital and important to visit this kind of educational events. And some of them could afford it, some of them not, even though we're really like super democratic with the prices, but still it takes a lot of everything to travel. So we decided to support 10 of them with like this fundraiser. So we could choose teachers and help them to come and study with us. So they could, we're laughing a lot that these practices, they are really easy to practice during air attack in shelters, because for body and for circle thinking, you don't need any instruments. You could just be in shelter and practice.
Any point, any time. I mean, we do need to sing through everything, because otherwise, what is left if not our bodies? So people that are interested can also go to the 4K Music Forum Instagram page. There's lots of great content from the first forum that they can check. And again, the fundraiser is still up to the 1st of October. You can go to the Wells bio and donate. And we're almost there, 75% to go. So share it with your friends. And I guess my second question is really about the importance of continuing to sing, improvise, and gather during the current occupation in Ukraine, during the invasion. So why do you think it's even more important to continue organizing singing now?
Sorry, frozen. This is such an important question. I should have known and prepared for the answer for this. Well, apart from the thing that singing is one of the most important practice we have, and as I tell, like we could do it anytime, any moment, I found that it is incredibly powerful and strong practice to relieve grief and stress and to work with trauma. So we have so many people now who really experience like this trauma of losing close people, husbands or brothers or close friends, both male and female, are dying now and being killed at the war, or protecting or being civilians. So we found out that actually singing in the circle, it's helping to relieve a lot of trauma. So I feel like this is mostly even physical need for us to proceed like to relieve all this through singing. And
yeah, thank you.
it also helps a lot because like singing Ukrainian songs traditional is important, it's vital, and also improvising and singing together, it helps you to people to find their own way to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. My memory definitely goes back to our workshop in Kyiv and the reflections that people shared after those 2 days, and the way they talked about bringing improvisation in their everyday life, and how just the practice on improvising opens some different doors. On one hand, it's very absorbing. So when you're doing it, almost nothing else matters, right? So you kind of don't think about other layers of your life. But then when you're not doing it, you feel like it opens up some potential to think differently about the situation, to consider a different mindset, to consider different points of action. And then you seem to be bringing everything from the musical practice into your everyday life. Because as something that I've read recently, and it was a foreign report, and it was saying really about how much of the war is also about a mental health crisis, and that, especially going into the winter, is even more prevalent.
Yes. What I see now that we all, as a nation, come into some kind of really this mental crisis. So because first year was okay. I mean, it was shock, but we kind of had a hope that it's all we're gonna win soon and everything's going to be fine. And now it's the end of the third year, and at this point, it seems like all kind of strength we had and believed it started to fade. And so every people who I know, they kind of experience this depressive thing, and the winter is approaching, and we now already understand that we probably won't have electricity. That means heat also, at least 12 or 14 hours per day. And if it stays in the current situation, but if we will experience more attacks, it would be even worse. So we kind of understand that winter is coming, and with winter and with the cold, a lot of other problems are coming. So yeah, and of course, singing probably would be the last thing you think of in situations like this. But yeah. But
I mean, I'm really grateful that you're doing the second forum in October. I'm grateful you're doing it in Kyiv. And similarly to our event, I know there's going to be people coming from all parts of the country. And again, I hope we can support as many of specifically teachers from frontlines to come and to join in, because they are the ones doing the most essential work. And we've met some of them that do even drum circles, singing circles with all kinds of different people, young people, elderly people, and so on. So once again, fundraiser is still up to the 1st of October. Go to the bio on the Wells page and support it.
yes, and also, remember we were talking with you that many of these teachers, they're really young. They're still in their 20s. So they this is young professionals who are going to shape this how these Ukrainian students are going to be in the future, because they're really young professionals, and many of them are in the beginning of their career. And I think it's super cool that they have access to this kind of practices now, because I've been introduced to circle music and to improvisation after 35. I couldn't imagine what the person I would become if I knew about this and could practice all this human connection and all this resource and love if I was still in my 20s. And I believe that these kids, they're still kids for me in 20s who are doing this, and then they're conscious and patriotic to stay in this horrible life conditions, because possibility to die is 50-50 where many of them stay, or yes or no, but they choose to stay because many of them said to me, I cannot leave my students. They're in this school, and this if I will leave, nobody will do this work with them. So I really want to give some extra motivation and extra something to these kids in their 20s, so they could continue doing this and actually just come to Kyiv and I don't know, rest for a couple of days. I mean, we also experience heart attacks here, but it's nothing compared to frontline.
Yeah. So when we're talking about, tradition and culture and patriotism, one of my favorite memories of Kyiv, obviously I fell in love with Kyiv, as you know, being there. But one of my favorite memories was a folk singing and dance gathering, and this whole revolution that the country is going through, where especially young people are a lot more interested in language, in Ukrainian, are a lot more interested in traditional music and dancing, which some people, abroad do know about, and there have been some reports, but I don't think there's a real awareness of how much of it is actually happening. it's a big story for you, because I know you've been on your own journey of learning more and more traditional music, incorporating it into the improvisation. So my first question is personal. It's just about, what did it change for you to learn those traditional tunes, to incorporate them? How did it change you as a person, as a Ukrainian? How did it change you as an improviser?
Well, this is, I think it's before and after situation for me. Uh, because when I was growing up, I was born in USSR, so still in different country, when it became independent Ukraine. But still, I'm from that generation who kind of not super rooted. So I grew up speaking Russian. I'm from the eastern part of Ukraine, which is super, super Russificated. It was like hardly Ukrainian was forbidden there. There's no culture. Western parts of Ukraine were more, they have mountains, they were more able to preserve this. But I grew up without any, I couldn't say that I'm Ukrainian. I didn't even know what it is to be Ukrainian. I didn't have it in my understanding, my body, my parts, my music, my language. There was nothing about Ukrainian. First time I understand that I'm Ukrainian, then I was in Brazil and we started to prepare some concerts, and I decided to just learn something from traditional music to make it more interesting, because Brazilians are super into their traditional music. And I thought, to like, by comparison, it would be stupid for me to sing something in English or in Russian. So I decided that I will prepare something. And then I found songs from village of my grandmother who raised me. And then I started to sing these melodies, these songs. It's everything completely changed, because I kind of felt that my body and my blood started to react to these songs. And then after then I started to explore and learn this traditional music. I realized how much we have from this music in our like DNA system, and how many archetypes are there, how many stories in this music. And so I started to study it, and now then I'm like, singing in this memorization project with you guys, with Rihanna. People say, oh, Valentina will do her Ukrainian thing.
Of course.
Like few years ago, there was nothing for me as a Ukrainian thing, but now I'm just being me. But through this process, I'm not singing something Ukrainian in the process, but people think that I'm already in some kind of very like rooted traditional journey singer, which I never was. And just singing the songs helped me to kind of connect to the soil, to the landscapes, to actually feel it in my blood what it is to be Ukrainian. And so this is something that I really, really love now. And these kids, what we're talking, sorry, I keep calling them kids.
No.
So this is crazy how these young people do this revolutionary work. I was like, on my solo journey, learning this from some archives. I was going to expeditions, but this young adults, they are really reshaping now how Ukrainian culture is going to look. They started to make this traditional music trendy, and so they learn, they preserve, they interpret, they learn how to play instruments in traditional way. They learn from these adults who are still alive. So we still have these people who learn this music from their grandmothers, and they're living, they're like 90 something years old. So they're like really keepers of traditional music, and they were just singing this for their whole life. And just now in their 90s, because of these young adults, they started to be like a super rock stars, like appreciated. Like young people are going to them, to these villages, recording them, want to learn from them. This is beautiful, and this music is just amazing. It's great, it's difficult, it's polyphonic, it's wow. And just learning this, I understand how much it was simplified by Soviets, how it like was almost caricaturized, like Ukrainians were kind of this simple people from village singing some strange simple music. and it's really connected to rituals, to cycle of the year. Wow, it's amazing. So I feel so much like, how to say, richer now.
Hmm.
I
And it
have
was and it was such a privilege just to also be there and to listen to it and to take part. And obviously, as a fellow Slavic person, I really noticed the difference of what, for instance, happened in Slovenia. We're, much further to the west. Those rituals and traditional music was mostly around up until the First World War, and then because of all the shifts, especially the other empires that were in Slovenia, most of it didn't survive. So that luxury, that knowledge of knowing that in Ukraine every village has its own songs and they're so unique and they change as you travel, 1 kilometer after the next. It's
yes.
it's an incredible thing, and that is becoming popularized, and that there are archives, there are people interested in protecting it and keeping that traditional knowledge alive, and at the same time incorporating it in new ways, and having different presentation. I just want to go a little bit deeper into that because it's such a complicated process actually learning those songs. And you told me a couple of times as well that it's not just about the music, that they're so tied to, an action, a time of year, a ritual, a point in someone's life. And that it's also sometimes a question of, are all the songs to be shared? Are they all to be learned by who? And so on. Could you just speak a little bit more about that real relationship between the music that was created in this way that we don't even recognize, right, in Western society, where everything is professionalized? This is something completely different if someone in a village or in a town, but in this case mostly in villages, is doing like their routine that is related with the land and the people there, and then these songs emerge.
Yes. So there is there's some lyric songs, like they are understandable lyrics or like lullabies, something like that. But many of the songs are really tightly connected to rituals, to the rituals of human life. And there are three important rituals in every human life: it's a birth, wedding, and death. And the more important is ritual, the more songs there is, and they're like more complicated. For example, for wedding, there is a books of the songs, like before the wedding. Then her girlfriends are braiding her hair or something. Like then they're doing everything is preparation. Then they meet at the house when she goes away. When she say, like, when she's dying in this family and going like reborn in another family. So this is all like this. And these songs, many of them are so difficult, so layered with this very difficult harmonies. And there also like a huge amount of songs connected to this wheel of I don't know, wheel of
Wheel
life
of the
or
Year as well.
wheel of the year. Yes. So from them, there are many things that are happening during the year, from Christmas to Christmas, from greeting ancestors in certain periods of time, to collecting crops, to calling winter, to calling spring, to calling rain, to so this, they're all songs which need to be sang in specific a day, in specific holidays. And many of these songs, they were written not for people to listen, but to be sang in specific time of the ritual. So they are not about listeners, but they're about being present during the important moment. So this is interesting also from our observations. So songs are incredibly difficult. You could sing them mostly. So recently in villages, that normally singers would be from the same family. So
Hmm.
they would grow up near their, let's say, grandmothers, starting to listen the bass first, and then started to listen the middle part, and then only start, like some of them, the most talented, would do this higher, or the higher voice. So so normally people were listening, like learning that in their families. So it would be like a family kind of, not an occupation, but family tradition to have singers.
Yeah, and this is a completely localized process,
Yeah.
which is so different to the global nature of the music industry that we live in, or how we think of ourselves sometimes as musicians. And the way that I feel it in you is that this grounding then also comes up when you're improvising about something else, or when you're improvising with others. I don't know how you feel it, but I'm interested in how do you now sense this connection to the land, your ancestors, your cellular memory? How does it show up when you collaborate with someone else, when you step on stage, when you go somewhere else outside of Ukraine?
Yes, it's coming a lot. It's coming a lot, and sometimes I really want to switch it off, but it's
You cannot, but you're
I
in it.
cannot.
Once you improvise, you're there with the ancestors. It cannot be, I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
sure that
yeah,
it
yeah.
can be switched off.
Yes, they're coming with me, whatever I want this or not. They finally could travel, uh, outside of Ukraine. So yes, I think that once I found this really kind of rooted and some kind of raw power in me, I cannot call it anything else. Sometimes I'm trying to, of course, as a singer and as improviser and as a part of the group, I need to come in different kind of volumes and also be able to just support and be there for others. And I'm really doing this as well. But then in some moments, even if people are doing something which is understandable and in Western tradition, I started to see the ways where my roots are kind of could grow. And so the fire is lit and it's really burning.
Exactly. Because I guess what I mean also is that in Western culture, or people that I sing with sometimes, I observe that improvisation on its own can also feel empty. It depends what kind of an intention or starting point or grounding place you have. Are you just grounded in the music that you have listened to your life? Are you just grounded in the music that you studied? Are you grounded just in a rational, a process or expectation? Because it feels that, of course, people are searching for this deeper connection, right? And in some places like Ukraine, that is still possible if you engage with this kind of material. Of course, there are other ways, but as singers, as improvisers. And in other countries, that is not possible. And I feel like on one hand, there is this opportunity with improvisation that it does build so much connection and openness. But then I feel like people still need to be grounded in something else rather than the practice of improvisation. So it's more of a question of where do you then search for that grounding? Is it in your own culture? Is it somewhere else? And I guess it also makes me think of all other places, well, in this case, especially within Europe, where that knowledge is still alive and we don't think about it and we don't consider going to those places and talking to those people, especially older ones, because well, I'm going to speak for myself, right? In Slovenia, yes, we think about war, but we don't think it's so, imminent, and we feel safe, right? And in terms of our own identity, we have not been forced to consider the power that is in the language that we have and in those traditional songs. So there are people working on it, but there's not this pressing, need to hold on to it as your own identity and grounding into this land. So it's almost, I guess, for me, always an invitation for other people to consider that wherever they are, their relationship with the
Yes.
land that they're on.
Yes, it is like you're putting this all so beautifully together. Actually, it is, and I feel it could be kind of restored and refound. I would say, like this then the Latvia, Lithuania were occupied by Soviets. They started this movement, like of these traditional choirs, and which is like now the choirs are considered to be best in the world because they kind of by this moment they didn't have these traditional singers alive, but they like with all some kind of archives they really started to learn this music, and now it's this big, like a almost Olympic games once in every 4 years, this festival, which like whole country comes to sing traditional music, and it's become super popular last decades. So, and this is, I think we in this process now, it's sad, of course, that it was like hidden from us and stole from us and prosecuted for so many. Now we started to uncover some documents, and I just horrified how many, not just poets or poets, like writers were killed by Soviets, but how many musicians were also killed for writing great music. And like at the beginning of Soviet Union, there was a whole thing that they killed like hundreds of musicians just who were keepers of this traditional music. So it was always the plan. So there is some example for me that was kind of the wake-up call also. At the beginning of the war, there's this really beautiful archive with traditional Ukrainian music, and it started to experience attacks, like all content was deleted, so it was constantly attacked by Russian and deleting this content of traditional music. And then at some point I felt that they're not just trying to kill us physically, but they were trying to erase our culture all these centuries, and now they just want like physically erase this archive, this traditional music. So I thought, okay, until we're singing these songs, they're actually alive and our memory is alive. So, and for me, it didn't take much time. So as it feels like to find this roots or something, it's so much. Of course, I went through like whole trauma because of the war and because I'm facing the day of daily basis and all these feelings about my country. But it took me like few years to understand and to find these roots in music, and I actually feel it's possible. And I don't know how it is, but for me it's much more interesting to be the singer with some face. Like, I want to be more technical, and of course I want in our improvisation to be like, how could I say it, was possible to sing either like be technical and rhythmical and be universal. But I really enjoy that I have this personality, and I love to be someone. Actually, it feels good. Even
Yeah.
more than to be called professional, it feels good to be called a person who could have some artistic ideas, which I do not need to find, like to look for them. I kind of understand that they already exist in this land of like DNA memory, and actually I think that improvisation here helps me to discover them. So I could later work with this archetype as a singer, or like during other my solo performances, because I found them during this improvisational work. So it also helps me to understand, like, okay, this is a healing woman. It We have, for example, this archetype of woman who is singing to heal other people, but it's in other cultures some kind of healing movement. But in Ukrainian, this is specific healing woman who, for example, was there was this ritual when warriors came back from the war. There was woman, specific woman in village who would sing for them these long songs and long notes to bring them back to the life, to live in the village. There is death is not like killing is not okay. To bring back this taboo for killing. So because then back from the war, you need to come back from death to alive people. So this was this specific healing ritual. So this is kind of healer with the song, and or healer with the every mother would be considered to be a healer when she's singing these lullabies, because there's a sacred meaning and like it's protective to child. So then I started to sing this, I start to understand these deeper meanings of this, and then I could bring this to the stage when we all improvise and do these performances with Rhiannon, and not just with Rhiannon. And then during this our improvisational practice, I understand more about this archetype so I could bring it back and actually start to somehow discover these archetypes. Because when we're learning this music from elders, they just told us about rituals. So it was this, and that, but not sometimes this sacred meaning that was put in there like centuries before.
Mhm.
So improvisation kind of helps me to understand this sacred feeling. And so this is really back and forth
Yeah.
between me.
Because also we mostly don't share those lives, you know, we mostly don't share those lives of those people that
Yeah.
created those songs on the farm or, you know, in nature. We don't, that's not
Yeah.
our lives experience, you know, right? So at the end, sometimes or most of the time we cannot even sound like them, but there's also still so much that can be transferred. So it also almost reminds me of, you know, how I view our cellular memory and how so many of the things are already in our bodies, including the experiences of, you know, our ancestors and where they've been. So it almost feels like learning that music activates something or
Mm-hmm.
infuses, you know, infuses the way we sing and improvise. And another reflection is that I sense that, or even when observing you sometimes in a group setting, that infusing in that way of singing, it's almost like a portal that deepens like the collective experience, you know, in the way that we sing. In the same way that, okay, sometimes we want to sing for just to practice something musical, it's a specific thing. Sometimes we want to sing for another reason. But in this way, when it comes to like collective emotion, when it comes to, you know, transformation, healing, connection, it feels like the knowledge that you brought also from traditional music can then be transferred outwards, you know, and creates this deepening or a different focus when presented also when we're improvising in a group.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. It's a door.
I mean, I feel the same way when I observe or sing together with people who are also like strong holders
Hmm.
of the culture, like Zahara, let's say, or you. So I also feel that I'm like I'm really in become like start to come in different reality, and this helps me also to go deeper in my artistic.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's not, you know, even culturally specific. I mean, we were talking a lot. We were on the same residency in Bologna, and we were talking about this thing about, okay, so if someone is so deeply rooted in a tradition, musical tradition, how can other people who have no knowledge rationally go side by side with them and support them or improvise with them? And we also discovered that that is also possible, that almost the if you bring that knowledge with an openness, it allows other people to join in, to learn from it, and to kind of, you know, join this collective feeling. And it does actually aid, you know, cross-cultural collaboration.
It is.
Anything to add?
But yeah, yeah, I know. Yes, that's because I also feel that this is what I'm saying. We are having these archetypes, what I'm seeing, that these ancestral feelings, which are kind of common. So these feelings and this field of understanding this cultural environment, it's common, but still it has unique shape in
Hmm.
every culture. So it's really helps me to understand this more common ground between us all, but also to be unique as I am. And but I really, it's easier for me to talk this ancestral language with another person who could be from completely different country.
Hmm.
We could understand each other in this like unique cultural expression. So this
Yeah.
is for me more easy than to, let's say, sing with somebody who is very professional and very in this Western type of music.
Hmm.
So I could sing with them and it could be beautiful, but I feel really strong and interested and engaged when I'm singing with somebody completely opposite from different culture, but who is really deeply rooted in their country. So this is something important, and I feel that we are helping each other to go deeper. I mean, you observe this process many times, and we are really singing strongly together.
Yeah, and there is that universality of archetypes, of collective emotion, of collective action, collective focus. And at that point, I agree. And also, then it becomes clear when someone has only been focused on the technical side, or when someone has rooted themselves in a culture that actually doesn't come from where they're from. So there's this very interesting, a conversation that is very layered, because it doesn't mean that we cannot, respectfully sing music for somewhere completely different to where we're from. But if we only root ourselves or find connection through that knowledge which is not from where we are from, I feel like there is something missing. And I think this especially, of course, points, to the Western civilization, to its colonial nature. So if you want to reverse that, one of the things that you have to do is find that connection, right, with your ancestry as close to where you're from. And even if that does not exist, I think there's still possible ways to connect with it, and at the same time, enjoy other music and connect with that and learn from it and so on. But
Of
there can be a
course,
missing element in that process.
of course, I feel like there is really important to learn the songs and the voice of the land you are living. Let's say if I would live in Brazil, I would continue learning the songs of this land. It's really important for me to understand the land and like to
Mm-hmm.
understand the people there. So this is necessary. But also, as I am already this like product, this DNA, I have my bones and blood and skin. This just kind of have a lot of Ukrainian memory, but it all started for me. Also, I studied a lot of Balkan
Mm-hmm.
music, and so I started to learn it first before traditional Ukrainian. But I also have this DNA connection. So I would now what I do. I decided that anything I would learn, I would just trace the blood.
Yeah.
So the blood I have is kind of not dictates, but to help me to connect to these people because they were there. So they give me these parts of their history of this, like some moments, some like some family history, some nation history, some land history. So I'm carrier of that all in small percentage or in huge percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like anytime that I'm listening these specific songs from this like places, even Balkan or Jewish Ashkenazi music, like from some specific regions, I really feel connection to that because I have this blood. So these people kind of gave me
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And once we go back, of course, like our family tree widens, and then we tend to realize that we're not from that one place, right? And there's been all the mixing, anyways. But I think I agree with you. I also feel that I recognize when I've hit on something that I have seen before or my ancestor has seen. It was similar for me when I did some also Bulgarian or like Serbian, rhythm courses on their folk music, and the process was so quick. And I was like, well, I've definitely done this before, not in this lifetime, but you can feel when there's a relationship if you're open to it. And I think it's good to be aware of that feeling, and follow it in your practice.
Yes, we could not even talk about metaphysics, like oh, in different life I did this. If like we
It's the
just talk about
reality of the, yes, of
reality and
the body and the
science.
DNA. Yes.
Yes, there's the DNA, and there is a like DNA, like music skills very often comes traced in families, or so there is a big chance that your ancestors did this already, so they studied it. But there is also collective unconsciousness in some specific, let's say, village, cities, countries. So actually we carry this information already. It's so good to just recognize it and see that what kind of songs. I think I really remember that moment that I learned um, the melody of lullaby, not
Mm-hmm.
from the archive, but from
Oh.
the this is come not by meaning. So from the museum, I found this little book in museum with the melodies of region, and I found this village name of my grandmother. It's very like specific. And then I just started to play it on piano, and I started to sing it. Didn't hear it how it should like how somebody should sing it. But the moment I started to sing this melody, I really felt that my body recognized it. And now that I'm started working with my students, even though I'm not traditional folk teacher, I'm just practitioner who learning this music, I suggest them to start the same, to find as closer lullaby to your ancestors, village, street, wherever, city, region, and start to sing this lullaby until you recognize the one. And this always happens. Like lullaby is this, probably when we are these babies, and this generations, they're singing specific lullabies in specific regions. I think the babies are listening to all it. That's all this protective kind of charm spell, and so this body really recognize it, and it really helps to root. So this is one of the most, like, my biggest life hack, how to connect. And I think that UNESCO has a lot of archives like this, and also even if not audible, but even just finding melodies, even if you cannot hear how the carrier was like singing it, but even just finding the notes.
And it doesn't mean that we have to perform it. It doesn't mean there has to be something public, as you said before. It can just be a practice for ourselves, but it is revolutionary, and it changes us, and it changes also our connection to our voice. Why do we sing? How do we sing? When we sing with others or with nature or ourselves, why are we doing that activity? I think it changes the perspective, and it becomes less individual, less about us, in a way that's really healthy. So if you're happy, I think this is a beautiful end point to just end with an invitation, to end with a beautiful invitation to anyone everywhere, wherever you're listening from, or when they're going to listen in the future, to consider the music of the land where they're on. Where do they take that inspiration? And if they can incorporate that into their practice and into their lives. Of course, before we finish, I have to thank you, Valentina. I have to send you the best wishes for yourself, your community in Kyiv and all around Ukraine. Of course, the best wishes for the 4K Music Forum that's happening in October. A last invitation for people to donate so that more music teachers from the front lines can come and join. And of course, you're going to continue your beautiful work. People can find you on Instagram. Probably you're open to also questions about this practice and so on. And I'm sure we're going to see you on this page again.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm really, really grateful for all your support and help, and for being such brave and cool and strong to come here to Ukraine for 2 weeks during the heat wave without electricity, blackouts, heat waves, rockets. But Yaka was here. Thank you so much for being
It was a real privilege, and I really would encourage anyone, even if they just go to the western part and be there in the mountains and be in the country, it's really important. It's really important. You don't have to go, but just to consider the reality and to stay connected with it.
Yes, and I really invite here, like, I'm really open for helping organize things and host you in my camps, or during in the western parts, it's very safe. But in the cities, if you are proceeding to shelters and taking security measures, should be good.
Yes, definitely.
So yes, I'm really inviting to come here and sing with us and teach here. It's really, really important. So any moment, I'm really here in Ukraine, in Kyiv, and I'm happy to have a conversation with any of you.
Thank you, Valentina, so much. Thank you for everyone listening. Go to the Well's bio, support the fundraiser, and of course, keep engaging with the Well. Go to the website and all the beautiful things. Thank you, and see you next time.
Ciao, ciao.